Game day brings its ups and downs, celebration and disappointment, anxiety and relief, friends and enemies. You can always argue over who should have won, but everyone can agree on great food. Appetizers, entrees, drinks, party platters, or even the taste of sweet victory. There's something for every season at Eat With Us restaurants.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather This Morning.
Hey, good morning. Welcome in, and thanks as always for joining us here on Mississippi Live Weather This Morning. I'm meteorologist Maggye McCauley. Thanks as always for joining us right here. Start off your Thursday. We have a lot to get into coming up at your 7:30 live broadcast, so I hope you're ready as we continue to talk through everything you need to know, especially as we head into your weekend. We're going to be talking weekend travel impacts and the latest of what type of precip you can be expecting as we head further into the weekend as model runs continue to push into the weekend. High resolution data trying to creep into the weekend this morning. So getting a fresh look of what could be your primary precipitation type as we move forward. And of course, our chief meteorologist, Matt Lawpon, is here to discuss that in further view as well. He's been looking at the models this morning again. So have I. So we're going to get to talk back and forth of what fully we expect to be going on this weekend.
You know, and I think that's the thing, like things continue to evolve. But as you heard first yesterday morning here on Mississippi Live, concerns about, as we really started to lean in this idea of a snow eater over the last 36 hours or snow, one of the big factors I think we want to emphasize is that a lot of this is going to change from snow into something else, either rain that refreezes or sleet, or maybe just pure rainfall. And there's still some hopes and prayers that that is the case. But Maggye, it's all going to come back to the exact positioning of that cold air near the surface. We're going to dig a lot more into that here in a couple minutes. But as I'm sure you're going to show, we have winter storm watches that have been issued. Those should be upgraded to warnings for many locations later on today. And those are the spots where travel disruptions are the most significant. Of course, more of that coming up here in a couple of minutes. Maggye?
Yeah, that's right. And we're going to talk about it again. Our alerts out there right now. I want to show you, take a look at an overall view of it, and then we'll look a little bit more in depth. But take a look. We've been showing you this, a bigger, wider view of the alerts across the nation this morning. Again, a lot of these not going into effect until a little bit later on, but all kind of plastered on here on our graphic. You can see that winter storm watch extending from New Mexico, Texas, all the way into Arkansas, all the way up into the East Coast. And yes, we're including it in that, but also there's a lot of other winter alerts going on because this system, this overall system and cold air that's going to be impacting us has a lot of different impacts. Even seeing an extreme cold warning for places up in Nebraska, northern Illinois, portions of Oklahoma already upgrading to a winter storm warning out there as well. So central Oklahoma. But again, here in North Mississippi, we are in that winter storm watch, and that is for a majority of us. Now, I will say the National Weather Service, we have two different National Weather Services that issue our watches and warnings out there. The northern half is issued by the National Weather Service in Memphis. They went ahead and pulled that yesterday morning. If you were on with us, Jackson went ahead with that this yesterday afternoon. So now we're seeing the majority of the area other than Noxubee and Pickens County under a winter storm watch. This goes into effect on Friday, and then it lasts until Sunday into your evening hours. Still doing with some rain this morning. Again, we will get into that overall forecast, but this morning still seeing some rain out there, especially for northeast Mississippi. So some light showers out there. I can see Matt seeing no concern this morning with the issue. Any sleet is brief and limited, and that is true. We saw some reports out there of maybe a pellet or two of sleet up in Blue Springs, but again, nothing too impactful out there. We'll look at temperatures. This is why. Where there is rain, temperatures are well above freezing in northeast Mississippi. 42 in Tupelo, 40 in New Albany, 46 in Amory, 49 in Columbus, 46 in Starkville. So yes, conditions above freezing where that rainfall is falling this morning. Colder conditions, though, do extend further off to the north from Tate County up into Alcorn County, starting off in the 30s this morning. So pretty wide range of temperatures over your first 12 hours ahead. We will see temperatures get into the 50s today. So if you're looking forward to the 50s, this is your last day with them for a while. Upper 40s by 11, low 50s out there today. Rain chances do continue to go down as we head throughout your day ahead. So if you got any plans, maybe you plan on running the store, getting all of that last minute stuff together, you should be good to go out here for your Thursday. Hour by hour on Futurecast, just showing you day in and day out as we head into your Friday. Looking good to go today, even into your evening hours. You're good to go out there for your Thursday. So nothing impacting us today. We know the story flips, though, into Friday. And I keep saying this, but a majority of Friday looking very quiet and not a lot going on. So that's why we say, yeah, you're going to be going to school and work out there on your Friday because things are really quiet out there. But as we head further on into the evening, that's when things do have the potential of that switch over between rain and then that wintry mix that's going to be coming in, mainly for us as we head later on into your evening hours, overnight, and then into your Saturday. And again, we're going to be talking about your primary precipitation type as we head over the next few minutes. But overall timing looks to start for us as we head around dinner time out there on your Friday for Northwest Mississippi, pouring into the overnight hours and then into your evening as well. Also could be looking at this in multiple waves. So one wave coming in overnight into your Saturday, and then looking at the potential for another wave to come in out there on your Sunday. So that's overall look day to day of some timing aspects of it. Coming up next, of course, we'll hone in more of what the specifics are going to be for here in North Mississippi. We'll talk about our overall impacts. Matt and me are going to go over what has changed between last night and this morning in the different model runs. And also we'll talk about your primary precipitation type, that potential for some ice and accumulations and concerns with that. All of those details, of course, are going to be coming up right after this.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off, no tax, 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
When choosing a dentist for our family, Tupelo Smiles was the answer for us. They greet us with warm smiles right when we walk in the door, and they make us feel so welcome. We love Tupelo Smiles.
Frozen pipes can cause serious damage. That's why Absolute Restoration is giving away free faucet covers to our community while supplies last. Installing them is easy. Just slide the foam sleeve over your outdoor faucet and secure it snugly. Also remember to disconnect hoses, open cabinet doors under sinks, and let faucets drip during extreme cold. Call or text to check availability, and from our family to yours, please stay warm and protected.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's meteorologist Maggye McAuley.
Hey, good morning to you from the Room to Room Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Maggye McAuley. Our chief meteorologist Matt Lopon is in the background as well, going to be joining in on the conversation as we go over everything you need to know and everything that we know, everything that's new this morning as we head into that all-important weekend forecast with the winter impacts on the way. So take a look, though. We'll get through today first and go into Friday. Your day planner ahead, if you got any plans over the next few hours, temperature is going to be in the 40s, so not too bad out there, especially in comparison to how cold it's going to be coming up in the next few days. Rain chances stay pretty minimal throughout your mid-morning and afternoon hours. High temperatures today around average. That's some good news out there. If you have any plans, we're seeing temperatures in the low 50s for a majority of us, maybe a few 40s the further north that you go. Here's a look at your latest future cast going throughout your day ahead. Get a few showers trying to stick around, mainly for the southern half of our area. A lot of cloud cover sticking around for that area as well. Going into your Thursday evening, still looking at just a few showers possible. Into your Friday, I think we could start off with a little bit of some light rain out there. But here's the thing, a lot of Friday is looking to be above freezing. We'll see that cold air really settle in as we head throughout the day on Friday, but a few showers that do fall in your morning and mid-morning looking to just be rain. However, noon and on, maybe you could see a few little wintry mix try to creep in Northwest Mississippi, but the majority of activity we don't think is going to be getting here as we head into dinner time, into your later evening, and then especially into your overnight hours. That's when we're looking for things to really pick up here in North Mississippi. So that's the overall time frame we're going to be looking at. And then, of course, that's going to be continuing into your Saturday morning as well. That's the overall timing. We'll talk about what precip type you can expect coming up in the next few minutes. I want to show you, though, your 7-day forecast before we kind of get in on the nitty gritty of what's going to be happening over the weekend. 50s today, 40s tomorrow, temperatures falling into your afternoon and evening hours. And then on Saturday and Sunday, that's when we're looking at the wintry mix to creep in, be impactful Saturday, and then also potentially into a good portion of our Sunday as well. Temperature-wise, in the 30s, near 30 on Saturday, going to be a big question mark on who gets above and below freezing on your Saturday. Temperatures did trim a little bit warmer on Saturday, near 30 for a lot of us. That's still below freezing for a good portion of the area. Then on Sunday, in the 20s out there. And then look at that. As we head Monday to Tuesday, that's when really cold air settles in. We're looking at Monday morning with lows 9 in the single digits. Same story even in the low single digits as we head into your Tuesday morning. So anything that does happen over the weekend, the bad news is it's going to be sticking around as we head into the work week.
Yeah, and I think, boy, something got really interesting behind the scenes. Sorry, it's an interesting alert. It was like, oh, it's Bible app. Well, that's a reminder maybe to pray.
Yeah.
I had a men's group, and we can address that head on for a second. One of the things I said prayer specifically is that the warm air overtakes this, and maybe this changes all the rainfall. Still a possibility for some folks. I don't think it is for all folks. I think, Maggie, it would take something pretty spectacular to keep you guys from getting ice back there where you're at in Senatobia up there in Tate County. Tupelo, maybe there's a slightly better chance. That wasn't the angle I was meaning to go down. But what I was going to say is the ice doesn't provide the same level of, or freezing rain, same level of kind of icebox effect that we talked about last night to enhance the cold air. That's why when you look at the temperatures, say Monday, Tuesday of next week, you don't see some of the extreme values that we're looking at in some projections. The extreme values required massive amounts of snowfall that are probably not going to happen even to the locations north of us. So the depth and significance of cold air isn't quite as great because of that. That's why temperatures are slightly warmer. And so the feedback effect, where the model's like, it's cold, so we're going to make it colder. It's cold, so we're going to make it colder, is reduced. And that's why temperature is still very cold first of next week. But if we end up in the double digits there, hopefully for Monday morning, that would be one of the reasons why, because less snowfall, as close, doesn't have as much of an impact there. And then that hopefully has a feedback effect, allowing us to warm up a little quicker into next week. But I know you're going to dig into precip types, so I'm not going to hop in too quickly before that. The only thing I'll say, and I'll be real quiet here right after this, is that we do have, and it's going to kind of pop here before I kind of change that for you, a place on the website where you're going to be able to submit your closings, and it uses a couple different types of two-factor authentication. Go ahead, I'm gonna drag it down here a little bit so you can see, you'll be able to see the link, hopefully. Well, it's just gonna keep doing that, which is fine. Give me a moment to pop it on there, and I'll step out of the way. But it's gonna be msliveweather.com/closings/submissions. That's not gonna be an issue for anybody tomorrow. We are in good shape there. I'm gonna drag that to the top there so you can kind of see it. But that is closings/submissions. And just a little note out there, if we have some ingenious kids or employees, you type in the boss's email address or the superintendent's email address, they're going to get a ping, and they will know it captures your IP number. So they can track down who is trying to spoof everybody and cancel school. So just a heads up that the superintendents, and folks are supposed to do that. It will verify your email address, and then we will have to click approve behind the scenes. So even if it's yada 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 yada, and it verifies and everything, we will be able to go through and determine, okay, this is a valid closing, this is not. We're going to do our best to keep those up to date, primarily school districts and large employers. What we'll do on that. Because frankly, we have a very limited staff. And if I'm sitting there sorting through every single one of these, there's less time we can be forecasting the weather. All right. So I'd encourage you, again, large employers, when we're talking, especially 40 or more, and school districts is what this is designed for here, Maggye. And so we're excited to have it. I'm hopeful that everything works right with it. It's the first time using it, so we will see. It's the first time we've had something this complicated, and as you can see in the corner, it has that reCAPTCHA there. So the AI will hopefully help us sort through some of these. But you can submit those at msliveweather.com/closing/submissions. We'll put out that link eventually over the next couple of days. But as you see there, the primary precipitation type, again, we're in that mixed to rainfall, Maggye, which makes this, again, a very tricky forecast.
Yeah, it does. And I'm glad we have that submissions because we've been getting a lot of information emails on that from you guys, school districts, businesses trying to plan ahead. Again, we're going to continue to share that link out there with you. And I remember waking up and looking at different things to see, hey, do I have to go to school today? And that's one thing that you can look at in those school closing submissions within our website and also within the Mississippi Live Weather app. Here's a look at your primary precipitation type. Want to show you more nationally. We showed this at 7 a.m. as well. And again, we're going to be getting into the kind of the nitty gritty of things with this. But overall, I want to just show you a big picture view of it, because if I would have showed you this on Monday or Tuesday, I would have had this blue region most likely to see mainly snow all the way into the Tennessee state line, even impacting some of our counties that are closer to the Tennessee state line. Well, because I'm not showing you this until today and models took a turn yesterday morning, that has been shoved up further into northern Arkansas, even further on into the Missouri Boot Hill, Illinois, Ohio, well off to our north. And we have been dumped into that messy and mix of things over your weekend ahead. So definitely seeing primarily that mix of things for a lot of our area, that mixed precipitation. So we're talking about the potential of sleet and freezing rain looking like the primary precip type that we're going to be seeing as we head over into the weekend. The further south that you go, the more this is looking to turn into some cold rain out there. But right now that looks to be more central and southern Mississippi. But the overall question is, where does that lie? Where does that really line lie between the potential of freezing rain and just plain rain? And like Matt said, if you want something to pray that warm air continues to be shoved north and we get more of that just plain rain, because freezing rain causes a lot more impacts. I want to show you something that's, again, exclusive here on Mississippi Live Weather. Our overall weather system makes a lot of cool graphics that we get to show you that's more about probabilities than it is actual accumulations. But take a look at this. We're kind of in the middle of this, and that's why I want to show you it. Freezing rain potential all the way through your Sunday. And you can see kind of this transparent area highlighted. It's the potential area to see ice accumulations over 1/4 of an inch. Now, if I take that off, we're going to talk about what each model is saying. You can kind of see the zigzag lines with this, but the green line and the overall purple line is our models, our in-house models, our strike models here with Mississippi Live, and then the GFS, a more lower resolution model that we've been looking at into the last week ahead. So this is taking a look at that, and you can see there, I'm going to zoom in, show you more of North Mississippi still being highlighted again within that area of the potential to see 1/4 or so of an inch of the potential of freezing rain. And that is going to be impactful. Again, we're going to be talking about what the different model runs are saying, but this is just a few of them. And again, as I zoom in on here, a lot of us included in that, especially that Barron 15K, a lower resolution of our strike model, encompassing more of central Arkansas, extending. And this is what I think Matt would agree on, kind of would more agree with in all of these model runs. You can see that, again, that purple line extending from central Arkansas, southern Arkansas, into more of northwest Mississippi. That's not saying the rest of us couldn't see some type of accumulations, but definitely North Mississippi and northwest Mississippi into the Delta models are kind of highlighting this area. Wouldn't you agree, Matt, with maybe a little bit more accumulations than the rest of us?
I would, because I think GFS is too far south. I think it's the coldest of our projections. The European remains one of the warmest of our projections. We'll dig into all those here in a minute. But I still think the one thing I want to make sure that people do not miss is that I think most locations watching us here in North Mississippi, ice still very much remains on the table. So I don't want anything to imply something other than that. Certainly, odds when you get southeast of the trace of seeing more rainfall than ice are better than they were 24 hours ago, but maybe not that much better at this time. So I think we're all kind of in it. I think that farther north and west, there will be more cold air, and that squarely places more of a crosshairs on northwest Mississippi, Senatobia, South Haven locations that direction. Go ahead.
Right. I want you to see this, Matt, because I kind of zoomed in on us. Tell me if you think this line, would you take this line further south? This is primary precip type. Now, orange would be primarily ice. Green would be primarily rain.
So here's where this goes sideways. Freezing rain looks like rain, right? And so because freezing rain looks like rain to the naked eye, most people might say this is primarily rain as far north as I think where you have it here. But I would pull it down. I would pull it to Vernon, Alabama still at this point here. And then I would pull it past Oh yeah, there's a dot that's somewhere there. Pull it back northward a little bit, just slightly, and then angle it back toward Kosciuszko. Like I don't totally disagree at all with where the weather service. I mean, honestly, the easiest graphic to show it is if you look at the winter storm watch graphic. I think they have it pretty close on that. If you're in the winter storm watch, I think largely you are probably dealing with the there we are. That's where I still think that frozen precipitation more than 30 to 40% of the time, and again, I don't think 50-50 matters. I think if you're in the frozen precipitation more than 20 or 30% of the time, you're going to have some travel issues.
Right.
So unless we can warm it up enough on Saturday, and that's one of the things I'll talk about in a minute.
Yep. So that's overall what we're looking at. Again, those are different model runs of not necessarily who's going to be seeing just freezing rain or who sees it in general, but who gets maybe the bulk of it or a little bit more than the rest of us. Again, that's what we were looking like earlier. I do want to show you this before we get into your impacts, because I think a lot of us, and Matt has been saying, are kind of confused of what the different types of winter precipitation are or is, depending on what you're talking about. Here's a look of what we're dealing with in all of our different winter precipitation types. And here is that warm layer. Again, this is what we most of the time get here in North Mississippi, just plain rain. Like the snow does fall from the cloud. There's warm air throughout the entire layer of the atmosphere all the way down to the ground. So it does, again, thaw, becomes rain, and reaches the ground as rain, right? But then we get a warm layer in here and get cold at the surface. This is what a lot of us could be seeing as we head into your weekend. Precipitation falls as snow. It enters a warm layer that's pretty thick, is able to fully thaw out as rain. But once it reaches the ground temperatures and overall air temperatures at the surface are below freezing. So it's able to freeze on contact. That, again, is one of the most dangerous things that we're looking at, because once it freezes on contact, we're talking about power lines, we're talking about trees, and again, that becomes problematic in terms of our energy and overall power outages. Next, it's that warm layer. We get farther away from it. It falls from the ground or falls from the cloud again as snow, enters more of a shallow warm layer, is able to refreeze, and then enters our area, enters the ground is more of like a pellet situation, as sleet. And that can, again, freeze on more flat surfaces, but it doesn't freeze on contact. So it bounces off of things like power lines, trees, and that nature. And then something that we're just simply not going to be seeing is, again, that freezing layer all the way from the cloud to the ground that falls as snow. So that's overall the precipitation types that we're looking at. I know that can be confusing overall, but that's the situation that we're looking at, freezing rain to sleet. Here's the overall look at our impacts. I want to go over our winter threats with you. We're probably going to change this. I haven't yet. I should have changed it this morning, but I hate to crush everybody's dreams, but that's just going to be the situation out here. Our confidence level in terms of accumulating snowfall probably going to be going down to a level 1, because this is the primary thing we're going to be watching for now. Our confidence level to level 4, as we're looking more of ice and sleet accumulations than in terms of snowfall accumulations out here across the majority of North Mississippi. Also still looking like the potential of some heavy rain out there, and still travel impacts and sub-freezing temperatures, definitely level 4 out of 5 as well. Any thoughts on your overall threat impacts, anything like that, Matt? Or
I think the snowfall part there, we're going to probably have to take confidence down more on that. I think the place where snow is still in the mix And I think a third opinion I want to kind of talk to this morning, we're part of a broader network of meteorologists around the country called the National Weather Network. And if you think our forecast has had some variability in this week, I got to bring in somebody who's had even more than that. That's the folks over at the Arkansas Weather Network. And so joining us live this morning over there is James Bryant. He is a meteorologist there has been in the Little Rock area for a number of years, in kind of in traffic this morning, kind of waiting, or maybe not really moving in traffic. You guys have been all over the map on this one, or let me say this: you guys have been solid. The models have been all over the map on this one. Thank you for joining us here this morning on Mississippi Live Weather. What are y'all thinking about your area? As I just want kind of another set of eyes on this new model data and kind of how it's transitioning.
It initially looked like our snow forecast was going to be down closer to I-40, but it's just bumped a little bit further north. And, Matt, I did some research yesterday on just how the Euro does with really stout warm noses and its track record in the South. And I think it actually does pretty well. People usually will point to it struggles with Arctic air masses, and that is true. But even if you trend colder at the last minute, I think our starting point is too warm to expect everything to go to snow. I think the best case scenario is a lot of areas that are expecting freezing rain end up getting sleet. There's just too much warm air at the surface in central South Arkansas, down towards the Mississippi River, and into western Mississippi. I know you probably saw the National Weather Service in Memphis, their ice forecast this morning increased amounts dramatically over western Mississippi and eastern Arkansas. And I feel like the focus has been on snow amounts just because that's the cool thing. But we're really sounding the alarm on what could be the worst ice storm since December 2000 in South and Southeast Arkansas. They've had some half-inch events, but with wind gusts at 30 miles per hour, that would lead to widespread power outages. And so that is our thinking as of this morning for Southeast Arkansas over towards the Mississippi River.
The thing that you mentioned is something that we talked a lot about yesterday. The warm nose, I just keep calling it behind the scenes the snow eater because it takes snow and changes it into something else. I guess I'm saying that in front of the camera too. But that's something that we saw in Euro yesterday. And, our meteorologist Gabe Maynard and I having lovely debates. He prefers GFS. I'm a European apologist. And so it's good to see someone else, number one, seeing that. And that research is helpful in understanding. One of the things we've been trying to tell people is that in this event, and typically in events, when we start to see that warm nose showing up, and now we're looking at more sleet or freezing rain or something like that, it typically doesn't trend back the other direction. All of a sudden, we're not like, oh, whoopsie, here's the snow. It's more likely than not to hold or maybe go, in your case, more toward that significant icing situation. In our case, we're hoping and praying more toward a rain situation.
Yeah, that is the hope. I think it's easy to forget how terrible freezing rain is, or maybe it's not easy to forget. I mean, my childhood memory is December 2000. It was terrible here in Little Rock. We had 2 ice storms back to back, and they were statewide, but especially South Arkansas was hit very, very hard. And I do not make that comparison lightly, but I think there's a good chance that if we don't trend towards more sleet, it's going to be a freezing rain event. Down to our southeast counties, which is Lake Village and into the Greenville area, and that's in the western part of your state. And people in that area will automatically remember the Delta ice storm of 1994. And looking at the analogs, just how these systems compare, there are a lot of similarities between the two systems. Now, that was an extreme, very extreme event, and I don't think we're necessarily calling for just a repeat because no two events are the same. But you see that if there are similarities, you could probably expect some extreme ice accumulation. And it's real unfortunate because the human cost there, power failures, extreme cold, is just not something you want to see. And it's not something that you see if you get a big snowstorm.
You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here. I'm with James Bryant. He is one of the meteorologists for the Arkansas Weather Network, launched within the last couple of months here. You guys have an app that's similar to ours, obviously completely different coverage area, and we believe the app is important for the information it provides, but the meteorologists backing that are more important because they're the ones that kind of frame all the nuance related to this. You guys covered the entire state of Arkansas over there. I mean, it's the whole state. And I'm not going to even kind of claim that we're going to do well with the locations, there into Arkansas. So how can folks find your app? I saw at one point, I think your app was top 4 in the App Store yesterday, just a sign of just how good of a job you guys are doing and how well received you are. Things are going all right so far in this process. Have you had a good response again from the public on certainly what is a potential for a high impact event?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys laid out the blueprint for us with your launch I believe last summer, and
I appreciate that.
we launched during a busy season, and so feels like there was almost no weather to track the first 6 weeks we were around. But with this event coming up, we are getting a little bit more traffic, just because I think our information and the way we present it is very clear and concise. And I always say there's tons of good meteorologists in every market, and you really can't go wrong with any source. But we are just the source that's not on TV, as you know, for people that have just kind of left that tradition of watching the forecast on TV behind. We're right there with you, giving you the best information that we can get.
Okay, that's James Bryant with the Arkansas Weather Network. Y'all have, again, real complicated forecast next couple of days. I know you'll get everyone through in good shape. Appreciate you for joining us here this morning on Mississippi Live Weather. Safe travels, and hopefully you get a little bit of sleep as we go through this. Again, for our friends over there in Arkansas, download the Arkansas Weather Network. We are fortunate to have an Arkansan of our own. Is it Arkansanian? Arkansan.
Arkansan. And hey, she's from Carlisle, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You can't have her, just so you know.
I would try. I promise. Also a Mississippi State graduate, so I think we have quite a few mutual friends in Arkansas, so she's doing a great job for y'all.
I appreciate that. Hey, I will talk to y'all soon. Y'all be safe. That's James Bryant with the Arkansas Weather Network. Again, one of the other affiliates here as part of the National Weather Network of meteorologists around the country doing independent things. Okay, I of course, you're free to make any choice you want. If he gives you a good enough deal, it is what it is. I'll try to match it. But very happy to have Maggye with us. She has adjusted again that primary precip type, and I don't want to overshadow what has been your forecast this morning. Clearly, I came barreling in, throwing elbows like I typically do on some parts of this. If you want to exclude more locations around the Golden Triangle, I'm not afraid to say that that's something that maybe we consider. But at least in my model contrast, I'm not fully convinced yet.
No, I think you're fine. And about that, James and me are like those friends that have never really met, right? But we're still friends. So
that's just kind of the way this community works.
Arkansas.
Isn't it funny how that works? It's like
Yes.
these people that other meteorologists, and it's cool to be able to kind of work alongside them now.
Yeah, no, very cool. I was excited when they launched that, especially for my family over in Arkansas. So very cool. I know they're watching. I know we have, a lot of people around the region watching, especially in terms of our families. So definitely something to go hop over with them in the Arkansas Weather Network to get more specific on them. Primary precip type, yes. After Matt came in, I did take this a little bit further down. But again, I'm not saying that these counties, and when I had the Golden Triangle region in there, couldn't see the potential of some icing, but I'm just talking about your primary precipitation type. And again, I told y'all I made this graphic at 5 a.m. and I forgot the I on there. So I'm going to go and do that while I can as well. But overall, just showing you this graphic so you know what specifically you can expect. And yes, it's looking more like ice than not for most of us. However, I don't know, with the Euro this morning and everything else, just taking that warm layer further north, shoving it into our area, shoving it into more northern and central Alabama. I don't know. I just have questions for it. I think we're going to be watching what high resolution data does with Saturday over the next few days to really kind of adjust that line back and forth. But overall, I think majority of us, though, are going to be seeing our primary precipitation type being sleet and freezing rain. And of course, we would rather have sleet than freezing rain. But the overall question is where that line does lie. And I think our meteorologist, Matt Lawpon, is going to go over more of where that line is going to be coming into the next few minutes. But I think I'm okay with shoving that a little bit further south. I think it's just something we're going to be watching over the next few days in terms of our high resolution data, just how far they push that up to the north as well.
Yeah, and I'll say this, even if every model excluded the golden triangle at this point, it's going to be very difficult for me to say that I fully believe that yet, because dense cold air is usually very poorly represented in our projections. Excuse me. Well, you're going to have to go again. I'm going to have to go get a drink of water. I'll send it back to you, and I'll
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, get a drink of water.
I apologize for that.
Yeah, no, you're good. And I agree. We look at different model runs. I'm looking at what's happening this morning and kind of adjusting our forecast. But still this morning, like Matt was saying, our high resolution data is just now creeping into Saturday. And from what it seems in our lower resolution data that goes way further out, we're looking at another round potentially coming in on Saturday night into Sunday that will also add to the impacts of things. So still keeping our eye on the weekend. I know you've seen our winter forecast timeline. I'm going to pull up and show you all that, because that's not necessarily a one size fits all as well. When we talk about our winter forecast timeline, again, we've been 60 days out, we pay attention. 4 to 5 days, we look for consistency. 2 to 3 days, we're preparing a forecast. And I think we're still kind of in this, Matt. Like, I feel like we're still kind of preparing our forecast. One, because things have been changing so back and forth, and this is an overall setup that's been pretty complex, but also because we're still kind of 2 to 3 days out when you think of all the way through Sunday. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm talking about accumulation and impacts all the way through Sunday. We are still on that 2 to 3 day out timeline. So I think this is even a forecast we're going to be changing and just altering even ever so little or slightly, even Friday night, Saturday, as data begins to come in. I think it's something that people are going to still continue to watch, as we're going to continue to do that day in and day out all the way through Sunday.
Absolutely. Again, join the conversation. I'm watching the Facebook chat behind the scenes. The reason it's not on the screen, for whatever reason, our little thing here that allows us to put your chat has decided to take this show off. It worked perfectly fine last one. We'll figure it out. Hopefully we'll be able to figure that's it. I'm wondering if it was just the quick back-to-back shows that it didn't like when we clicked it off, clicked it back on. So we'll see. We'll figure that out. Again, still kind of learning here. No question about that. But we are watching your conversation here again behind the scenes. I'll kind of bring it back in here as we change this over. You know, someone was asking if I'm getting sick. No, that's granola bar. Not sick there. But you can, of course, watch us online. There's the live stream. It does lag behind just a few moments there. And we recommend probably picking this up on the app, the best way to do all that. So let's talk about the nitty gritty down here behind the scenes. And as I've said over and over again, you probably need to stick on a t-shirt, I am a European apologist when it comes to which model I like. And typically it's still kind of mid-range, not quite the full short-range models yet. So we're still having to kind of rely on it for some. But one very clear thing it continues to show, and I'll see if I can zoom it in enough that it's obvious on the screen there. So I'm going to have to kind of see if nope, not going to do that. That's fine. But you can see that freezing line, that 29 there is going to be where Tupelo is. That 36 is where Columbus is. That's a 7-degree temperature difference at noontime on Saturday between those two cities. And that's all the difference in the world between somebody up north being in solid, freezing rain and sleet, and somebody south not as much. This is one of our warmer projections. And one of the things that you heard James Bryant with the Arkansas Weather Network talking about a minute ago is how, doing some of his research, his additional research on this yesterday, the warm nose for their area, and obviously there'd be crossover for us, is something that, verifies, and so that's something we saw a European leading the way with. One of the main reasons I'm not just apologizing for it because, I'm just saying I will make excuses after the fact, but during the event, I feel fairly confident about where we're at with this. And so maybe it's a little too warm for the Golden Triangle, but I would say if you're down here in Monroe County, for example, and I'm showing temperatures in one part of Monroe County at 38 and the other part at 32, models are not that good, right? You'll probably have an 8 to 10 degree, temperature swing over one county. Which county? We do not know. No model does, no person does. God probably has an idea. We're not going to get into, whether it's predestination or all that kind of stuff, but let's just say the only one who knows with somewhat certainty is that guy. So the positioning on exactly where that freezing line is going to go is something that we're going to try to refine here, but I don't want you to immediately say, oh, we're fine in Stark, we're fine in Lewis. So that is not the case. This is one model at one time, and the positioning on this will change, especially when you're backing it up with teens up here to the north and west that'll slide in. That is very dense cold air, and it always is kind of poorly represented in our projections. All of them. So now let's look at comparison. Comparison is, in this case, important for us to look and see, okay, how does everything else, so we're gonna look at the current models here, and this is, as you can see, a model website you can pull up at home if it's something you so desire, but from the College of DuPage. And so this is GFS, and on this one here, it shows, again, probably southern portions there, that's Columbus, that is gonna be Tupelo right there, the other number there is Oxford, that one out there is, okay, I can't do it sideways like that. Let me think. That would be Winona-ish, Greenville, Greenwood, essentially. Jackson down here. But again, those are kind of some of the numbers that you see on the screen. They might be somewhat hard to read. More than anything, we're looking at this to compare how this is that European one, farther north by about a county than the GFS. So those have really, converged on their positioning on this for Saturday. This is midday Saturday. Again, halfway between that, GDPS, very similar to the RDPS, but those two share, similar model, dynamics. Notice how the positioning on that freezing line there in Monroe County, back into Clay County, Oktibbeha County, pretty consistent on a lot of these projections here. The majority of them, one of our highest resolutions, slightly farther north. But I would say that they also, in many cases, keep that number there that we're watching. In Columbus, keep that number a little bit closer, maybe not as warm as it is. And so it only takes a degree or two for this to go from an inconvenience to really, really bad stuff. We're going to look at some other comparisons in a second, but I see Maggye showing something that I think, does another job of showing the comparison there that I think is pretty important. And that, Maggye, is when you're looking at, the possible areas where we're talking about a 1/4 inch or ice or greater. We talked to our the folks over at Tom Bigby Electric Cooperative. I cut that interview. We have that on our Facebook page last night, 6 o'clock. He's at a 1/4 inch of ice. They start getting concerned. It's 1/2 inch of ice that they start having the real big problems, and that's that radial icing that I think we'll look up and show in a minute there. But talk about that freezing rain potential. As you can see, there's clearly quite a few spots involved with that.
Yeah, and again, we have that as well, that radial icing that begins concerning, because this is the type of ice that sticks on those power lines and trees that becomes, again, an issue in terms of power outages. And yes, our strike model usually does overdo it, but in Northwest Mississippi, which is the counties we have been talking about that is going to be receiving the greatest impact in terms of overall ice potential and ice totals, again, highlighting places like Cahoma, Quitman, Panola, Tate County, all the way into Benton and Tippah County, is showing over a 1/4 of an inch to potentially around a 1/2 of an inch that causes an issue. Again, this could be overdoing it, but it is a potential there that we're watching, again, especially in those counties that are far to the north and west. I feel like all of our models are really hinting at that, Matt. Not saying like we couldn't see impacts further south, but that specific area.
They have. That's part of the reason we talked to the Arkansas Weather Network, is they're really in the focal point with this. This is going to break your graphic here in a second, because I noticed that 0.01 there, it shows in DWIT. That, I don't know if that's pulling in the right model data. I know that we kind of just added that in yesterday. I feel like.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I need to delete that. Yeah.
No. But let's. I think we should be able to. We might be able to actually fix it. So give us a second here. I know this is going to look kind of ugly for a moment, but I want to see if we can get that right, because I think that's a location I think I wanted to see the data from. That's why it caught my attention. It wasn't just one I glossed over. Gloss, maybe not the right term to use when we're talking about ice potential, but anyway, Barron 3K, and let's go on our strike model. We'll pull up that radial icing. Radial icing, okay, and click OK, and click OK. Because I really would like to see what that number is that it's, okay. It's interesting that it's not pulling in anything there. Yeah, maybe we do need to get rid of that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hold on. I'm gonna give it one more chance here. Let's double check to see if specifically we can pull that up. I don't know if it's just a different place file, because I really want to know what that number is. So I'm sorry, I'm going to train wreck the whole show on that here for a second.
It wasn't working with me yesterday with it either. But I was.
I'll give it one more try here.
Yeah. But Matt's trying to adjust where we're going to be seeing that potential of radial icing and that icing that impacts power outages in more of central southern Arkansas, where they could get potentially a lot more than us shifting into North Mississippi. So he's trying to adjust that again. It's not working with him. It wasn't working with me either.
I don't think we're going to get to keep that one, unfortunately. But I mean, the reason is you can clearly see on the color there, that there's an uptick in that color. So these would be that spots, where at least this projection. Oh, and I'll get off. Hold on, I'm going to change this to where it looks better for you.
Let me do it.
And multi-window.
I got it.
As soon as I do that, it should get better for you.
Oh,
it chose the wrong monitor. So
there we
go. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I would say kind of looking at that there, those areas in that brighter pink is where that's that half integrator, and talking to Scott Hendricks with Tom Bigby Electric, those would be the spots where the power outages become the greatest concern. There's another factor in this, another graphic exclusive we haven't broken out here yet, and that's going to end up being there's a wind ice graphic that we'll look at in more detail tonight. We're kind of rolling these out day after day as we get closer and confidence increases, because the wind and ice component there is obviously where we start, kind of flexing the power lines and causing more issues with that.
Right. And again, it's something we'll be watching in a few days. Matt and Gabe have been doing a really phenomenal job of rolling out those graphics and that show you multiple things in terms to get to an impact, right? So we're looking at the potential of how much ice, how much wind we're going to be seeing that leads to the potential of power outages. So really impactful graphic that's going to be coming tonight. You'll have to make sure to tune in with them. That's exclusive on Mississippi Live, along with our Ice Finder as well. I know, Matt, you've been showing this day in and day out, but just continuing to show that and seeing if it's kind of honing in on that same area. Oh,
Sorry, that's me. I moved my mouse over it.
Oh, okay. I was like, did I do that? But anyway, it's still kind of honing in on that same area as well as we had throughout your Sunday of really highlighting Arkansas. And I know that James and everyone in the Arkansas Weather Network is good and forecasting really well, have been forecasting all week for this. But yeah, it's still kind of highlighting back into Arkansas. That doesn't mean that couldn't shift though. And that doesn't mean some of our furthest western counties couldn't be really impacted with this as well.
Well, and this is the thing that really hit here is that there's a difference, and I need to probably add a windshield layer to this, if we can remember that. I can't pop it behind me well because the way my system is set up here for your to be good for you. Actually, I'll see if let me duplicate this here and see if I can pull it, because I think there's something that's worth us showing. Give me just a second to.
Yep, hands off.
To try to fix that. I'm gonna have to break something to fix it. You know how that goes. Isn't that fun? Okay, so let me shrink the size of this to get it. Oh, I'm sorry. I promise we'll have it. We'll have it not broken in a second. Let me make that a little wider. Okay, good enough. Okay, so I'm gonna pop it back over to me for a moment. It's gonna change this. Why is it? We're gonna play by the rules here. There we go. Links. There we are. And now I'll go like that. Okay. So one thing that immediately catches my attention on that ice finder there is the fact that where you look at this, right, it shows again the higher confidence out into Arkansas. I never expect, it will never with this event, get where the confidence is red for us. That does not mean we're not going to get significant icing. It means the confidence to where I can strut out there and say, I'm going to do this, is not going to reach high levels with this. Let me advance this a little bit here for you. We'll talk about that. So here's the thing. Notice how there is a difference here where, yes, through Saturday, the confidence is greatest that if it's going to be accumulating ice faults locations back there in the Arkansas, which is why you want to follow our friends over at the Arkansas Weather Network. But we remain low confidence despite the fact that this is depicting ice accumulations here. The displacement between these two becomes more important as we get closer. Because, as you can see, going into Saturday night, we never see confidence come up above, say, 10 to 20% out here, Oxford, Clarksdale. Though you don't need a magnifying glass to say that the most, I guess, the darkest color of anything it shows on here is right there south of Greenville. So how can you have low confidence and high accumulation? That's because of that freezing line. Because of where the freezing line is, or the fact that we aren't going to nail it down to the exact county, that is why the confidence will never get super high on this, where the impact could be the greatest. Because the thing about ice is, ice in particular is always most significant when it's almost just rainfall. You know, where it's 31 degrees and God willing, it should be 33. That's the scenario. You're 31 and you just had rain that fell as rain, but froze instantly as ice. So the confidence on this, I do not expect to get particularly high, though obviously it does increase a little bit more through your day on Sunday, but it's this zone here that does include locations: Tupelo, Boonville, Water Valley, Bruce, Grenada, Greenwood, Greenville, Hollandale, back toward Lake Providence. You can clearly see this zone is where we have the darkest colors, but I would not feel comfortable at all yet. In Amory and Aberdeen, I see these colors going lighter and lighter and lighter, but what you need to know about what we see here is that this graphic in particular, Ice Finder, helps us understand the likelihood of something happening. It helps us kind of nail down what precip types are possible or most likely. But when we start refining exact spots where we have the main impacts, this is not the perfect graphic for that. That's why we've been showing this since Monday. Now, as we go in the next couple of days, we will, yes, continue to show it because it's something we've been discussing. I think there's an expectation we'll see it. But when we start refining peak impacts, there will not be an 80-mile, change off here between highest ice and not much left. It might be one county between, oh, look, we escaped most of it, and oh man, we took the worst of it. So that's why at this point here, lower confidence south and east, higher confidence in the zone here where we're showing, but highest confidence where we don't even have the greatest impacts. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to bring you in, Maggye, to see if any of that kind of sort of made sense on that. But that's why I don't expect Ice Finder to ever get to a situation where we have even probably 60% confidence on the peak locations. That probably won't line up because the peak spots with an ice storm are just right there at the edge between, oh, look, it was all rainfall, thankfully, and oops, it was not.
Right. No, I think that makes sense. I think we understand, like, in terms of percentages and likelihood. I also think we know what it means when we're looking at this days in advance. And that's kind of what Ice Finder helps us do. Look days in advance where things are setting up, where they're likely, and then seeing what changes with that day to day as well. Sorry, you might hear Maya. She's kind of talking in the background here. But overall, that's kind of what we use for Ice Finder. It's in a Mississippi Live exclusive product. Oh, she's running around. Come here, Maya. Come here.
Can we get Maya's prediction?
Can we get Maya's prediction? She wanted snow. Come here.
I get that.
Hold on, let me figure it out.
So she hasn't got to see snow yet, really. Well, actually, you got some last. Obviously she won't remember it, but
yes, like last, December, January, there was snow. But she was like 2 months old. She has a brush. She really likes the hair brushes. You want to show them? Ooh, okay, there you go.
Does she like looking at herself?
She's looking at that big screen. She's probably wondering what's going on. You want to give that away? You want me to see it? Anyway, so here's her period. She didn't make it on Monday, so she made it today. I'm
Oh,
gonna
I
set her back down.
appreciate that. I heard her. I was like, oh, I think I know who that is. That's one of my favorite people. I love it.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to go
Oh
back
my
and we're going to
goodness.
look at gross models and I'll take your opinion as we kind of go through and look at this. So let's see here. We'll come
You're good.
back onto this and we'll change this back over to our browser here. And so that's the reason why that county difference there, when we kind of looked at all these projections, I would not have a high level of comfortability if I'm in that winter storm watch. Many of our locations in the winter storm watch will be upgraded. I'm going to check the chat here for a moment on kind of what we're looking at with this here. And again, I appreciate you guys for being patient with us. Unfortunately, the chat's not great. A lot of folks, super excited. Longevity of travel impacts. That's what they're not excited about. Excited about Maya. Longevity of travel impacts remains one of the questions. I guess you can see on the screen there, because I forgot that screen's up and on there. So what do we talk about on that? So that then comes back to the quantity of cold air. So I want to show you the warmest projection here. That's where we'll start, right? Kind of best case scenario, and then look at how long impacts could be in place. So in the best case scenario here, this is still showing, I'm gonna have to go a little wider, so I'm not gonna be able to actually control it. This is still showing, again, most of us below the freezing point there, midday Saturday, which is one of the warmer times during the day Saturday. We show maybe there about 4 p.m. A lot of us back up above freezing for a brief moment, and then trying to hold close to the freezing point there, even in the overnight hours before. One thing that I do love about this, and I don't know that I agree, is how far north this pushes, this particular projection here pushes that nose of warm air at the surface. I mean, it says, and this is why this is a tricky forecast, that is, if I'm looking closely there, 60 degrees it's showing me in Meridian, 48 back there in Jackson, 42 in Columbus, 31 or so in Oxford, 36 in Tupelo. And this is the warmest projection, let's be clear, or at least certainly one of the warmest there. And in this scenario, this really pumps down some bad stuff up to the north and west if this happens, because typically you're wrapping in not just warm air, but moist air. This is, again, that snow eater that we are talking about there. And I want to show you the contrast. I see Maggie with that, with Futurecast. I'll let you get that back there for a second as we talk about this. This is the warmest. And I'm not going to say the one Maggie has is the coldest because it's not. But that is obviously, a lot colder with that. I mean, almost 10 degrees colder there in Columbus on that strike model there. Actually, though, that's GFS.
This is the GFS.
Yeah, I mean, I am interested in the fact that GFS is now that warm. It has lagged behind on this, but as you can see there, very plainly, the moisture continues in that scenario potentially through a good chunk of Sunday, potentially, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, I saw someone else, I pulled this up on the chat, Paula asked, so with less precip on Friday night and a little warmer for Saturday, appears travel on Saturday below Tupelo may be okay. Everyone's asking about travel, right?
No, I would say I would definitely, if you're in that winter storm watch, you should plan not to travel on Saturday, because here's why. Cold air is notorious for just being a little bit farther south than we expect, right? And especially at the surface. Warm air is notorious for being more overbearing aloft. Cold air is notorious for, because it's dense, it's kind of like spilling water on a surface and it just kind of rolls and does its own thing. Warm air aloft eats the snow, cold air at the surface sometimes is farther south than expected. I still like the locations that they have under this winter storm watch. I don't think everybody in that winter storm watch is going to be upgraded to winter storm warnings. Winston, Lowndes, Lamar, I'm hopeful for you, maybe Marion, that we have more folks there, maybe possibly in a winter weather advisory, but I think Noxubee, Pickens perhaps also in that as well. We'll see as confidence tries to increase there. But if you're in one of these blue counties, you should expect not to travel on Saturday or Sunday, and in some cases travel to be trouble on Monday and maybe Tuesday of next week. We tend to not have the same longevity of issues if it's pure freezing rain. If it's a sleet freezing rain combo, those impacts tend to last a little bit longer. And if it's snowfall, it takes a little longer for that to melt. That then tends to last the longest. Hence the reason why I would say middle of next week, travel should be largely better. But through the weekend, I'm not going to say ignore everything we're talking about, but just to say that the graphic Maggye has next to her there is the most important one, because this tells you impacts. And in these blue counties, you will have impacts and should expect those.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think we've been hitting on that all week. Know where you're going to be for the weekend and stick there. Especially, I mean, I would go even when you're picking your kiddos up Friday from school, when you're done with work on Friday, dinner plans at the house. You know what I'm saying? Start that then if you can, and just expect to be primarily inside from then on, especially for these counties. But I mean, you just want to be on the safe side. We always err on the safe side of things with people, especially traveling. And I think James hit on this pretty well, that people forget how dangerous and how impactful freezing rain is. I remember a few years ago when we had snow, a lot of snow impacting really the mid-south into North Mississippi some. And then on the backside of that system, we had freezing rain. And let me tell you, freezing rain caused way more travel disruptions than that snow ever thought about doing. So freezing rain can cause a lot more impacts in terms of travel, in terms of power, and just overall some dangerous conditions can set up. So that's why
I think
we err
it's
on
the
side of
least
caution.
poorly understood of the different precip types, right? Freezing rain just sounds like it's cold rainfall. No, it is rain that freezes on contact. And the best description for it is ice. Because ice comes in different forms and fashions. You know, snow's a type of ice, sleet's a type of ice, grapple's a type of ice. But freezing rain just sounds like, oh, cold rainfall. And as Maggie's shown there, it's clearly not.
Yeah, no. I've been hitting on this all morning because I mean, even us, like we had to learn and kind of wrestle back and forth with what's freezing rain versus sleet. Sometimes it can be a little bit complicated as well. But this is what we're dealing with, this warm layer aloft. And that's putting us in these two center categories, right? This freezing rain to sleet kind of switch over. And the closer you are to that warmer air aloft, the thicker that layer is within the atmosphere, the more likely we are to see freezing rain. Again, that snow, once it comes from the cloud, falls into that warm layer, fully thaws as rain, but it then goes back into a cold layer at the surface. That's why Matt's been going over where that freezing line is, and is able to freeze on contact with things like power lines, trees, and cause power and travel disruptions overall. I mean, and I don't discount roads and bridges and all things of that nature as well, but definitely making more of an impact in terms of power outages, in terms of power lines and trees and things of that nature, in terms of freezing rain. Sleet, a little bit different. We have more of a shallow warm layer. So as that snow falls into more of a shallow layer, doesn't fully unthaw and then freezes back into more of a pellet type situation where it kind of bounces off those things before overall freezing back on the surface. So these are the two main things we're going to be watching for. We're probably going to continue to go over this graphic day in and day out as we get closer to time, just so you guys have a better picture. I'm a visual person. I like a good visual. You could explain something to me all day long, but I like to be able to see it. I think this does a really good job of doing that. Of course, rain is when we have warm air from really high up in the atmosphere all the way down to the ground. That's what we're hoping for, at least for some of us, especially further off to the south. But we are more likely to see these two things in the middle again. And then that snow, that level of impact, we're probably really going to have to take down, with none of us seeing fully frozen or freezing conditions from cloud to all the way to the ground. So that's overall look at that. Again, that's one of our two main impacts. I'll look at that impact graphic. It's right after this one. Anyway, it's going to be the potential of some ice, which comes in the form of freezing rain and sleet. That level 4 might even have to take that up in the coming days, depending on what models go back and forth with. Snowfall, again, I'll take it down. Matt's want me to take it down. It is needing to be taken down to a level 1. Most of us, not all of us, not going to be getting accumulating snowfall possible. Some high resolution data trying to come in with a little bit of snowfall for folks way up into our northern counties, like touching the Tennessee state line. Most of us not dealing with this, dealing with more of this, which is ice and sleet. Still heavy rain likely for some in some form or fashion, especially if you are our most southern and eastern counties. So we're talking about Winston, Noxubee, Oktibbeha, and portions of Lowndes County. Still going to be dealing with the potential of some heavy rain out there. And then here's our two main things we're hitting on: travel impacts. likely probable for a lot of the area, especially as we get that cold air in there that's able to kind of refreeze overnight, causing some travel disruptions as we head into Sunday, as we head into Monday, and then potentially into your Tuesday as well. And that leads us to our next point of those sub-freezing temperatures for over 72 hours. Now, Matt's talking, and models have hinted at a little bit more of an uptick in our temperatures by a degree or two going into the weekend. I'll show you your 7-day forecast. We haven't showed it in a while. We have maybe, I trimmed the numbers slightly upward. I'll say that for the weekend and into your Monday and Tuesday, but even slightly upward is still cold, near 30 on your Saturday. Again, keeping an eye across the area of where that freezing degree line does set up, but we can say 30 around an average across the area out there on your Saturday. But 20s pretty likely as we head Sunday into Monday. These could trend upward a degree or two, especially Monday into Tuesday. We did trend Tuesday a little bit more upward as well. Middle 30s should help with sunshine to really unthaw us and let some of that conditions thaw that we got overnight. Anything that was on the ground into the weekend should be able to at least unthaw into your Tuesdays. Things get above freezing. The sunshine, of course, helping aid into that as well. But it's still these overnight lows that we're also going to be really keeping an eye on Monday and also on your all cold conditions, and really not great if you couple them with the potential of power outages that we could see over the weekend if we get again that accumulation of ice on things like power lines and trees that could fall in situations like that. So that's overall looking at multiple factors with that, lots of facets overall to the 7-day forecast and overall to this winter forecast that we're going to be honing in on the next few days. And of course, you can keep checking up with us for the 7-day forecast. We're going to continue to probably alter these numbers at least a little bit day in and day out. That's why we encourage you to always check in with us in the morning, check in with us in the evening, because Matt and Gabe will see new model runs, new data that comes in, and at least it adjusts our numbers ever so slightly out here. So that's the overall things that we're looking at on our 7-day forecast. Any thoughts, final thoughts? Want to look at the chat, Matt? Anything like that? But that's overall.
Well, I'm largely trying to answer some emails with some questions about Fire Stick delivery mechanisms here. Some of the things we're trying to work out. I would say one of the things I want to mention is you're hearing from Maggye right now. She is spectacular. She's here every weekday, 6:37, 7:30 a.m. And that will, to a certain extent, probably continue into this upcoming weekend, as we are probably planning on doing some additional coverage into Saturday and Sunday mornings as well. I don't know that we're going to be exactly 6:30 a.m. We'll have to figure out based on our confidence in travel impact, or if we're still building toward those travel impacts. But it might be as late as 7:30 a.m. Might be 7 a.m. We'll see. Probably not 6:30 a.m. early Saturday morning, and then Sunday morning we'll be bringing you updates here. So we'll obviously have updates through the weekend as confidence increases and as impacts increase as well. Before we go, I do want to bring it back in here and show you kind of behind the scenes, and my background's going to change on me here. This is a comparison between, we're just now kind of getting where we have more and more models so we can kind of analyze and look at these surface temperatures. And on this particular one, the different site that I typically show, we're looking for this contrast here where it shows the difference between, let's see if it'll all still, if I zoom in, that's not wanting to zoom that in. I'm gonna see if I can make it. It might not be able to go in any more than this. There we are. Yeah, make that work. Okay. And so there we go. That's still doable and passable. So we're looking at this contrast where this kind of blue here is, and this is early Sunday morning. And so this is where, did we spend the overnight hours in a freezing rain scenario? The warm air probably reaches its most northward peak and greatest contrast here by early Sunday morning. This is what we'll call the UK Met. It's not a model I spent a ton of time looking at, but what I thought was important to understand about model resolution is how, south of Jackson here goes, hey, look, 63, and I move it an infinitesimal amount there, and it's like 49. Wait, 66. 48 in the same county there around Jackson. So models are not perfect, but that's a big difference on what this would output on, say, ice or something else like that. So what we're looking at here in particular is this freezing line up here where this kind of blue changes to green. That's where we're looking at the freezing point on this there. And still quite a few of the projections, still that's Lowndes County toward Winston County. And then that one's back to basically Tate County. So there's still a pretty wide range on where we have that. The reason for it, you can also kind of see there looking at the winds. That little circle you see there would be kind of the middle of what we call a surface low that's sort of developing. One thing we talked a lot about earlier this week is how this was somewhat of an atypical setup. We didn't have a surface low. We didn't have X, Y, Z, some things we typically expect to see out of a winter weather event. Well, this is trying to develop the surface low right over top of us. And that is something that is always highly inaccurate in projections when they try to do this. And so the positioning on this is probably some version of wrong. Have we really talked to 843, Maggie? Whew, sorry, didn't mean to go that long. Okay, so I'll try to keep this briefer. But when I look at these projections here, the majority of them are farther northwest on how warm it is. And I'd be a liar to say the European, which is the ECMWF, is the farthest northwest. Out of our typical models here, it's actually the North American mesoscale, or the NAM model, that's the warmest, farthest northwest. This is also basically the farthest extent out it goes, and that tends to be a little bit wrong as it's starting to grab a hold of everything. But indications are very good that warm air eats into a lot of this. And going back to that graphic Maggie had, and we'll look at that precip type graphic, I think, again here in a second. Looking at this conglomeration of models and kind of how they all layer up here. When we look at that one that shows it on the map and had the orange and the pinks and everything like that and the different precipitation type, and I was like, well, I think we need to nudge that farther south. If you believe this conglomeration here, it keeps, again, it fairly well aligned with where Maggye, I think, originally had that as well. So this combination, I do still think the concern comes in that we keep having precipitation that occurs beyond this time frame. If we were to look at, say, precipitation type and rate at that same time frame and looking at all these projections, you'll see whether it's the European there that has some kind of a rain mix, or whether we're looking at this one that has, you know, some kind of a sleet mix. All of these still have a mix for at least half of the area for that time where we're probably the warmest here for early morning on your Sunday. But this also continues to show on most of these projections that there's more moisture to come. So rather than look at a specific precip type, this shows there's a lot more moisture to come, meaning the extent of the threat time frame increases. That's why when we look at that 7-day forecast here that Maggye had up showing that, and I'll come bring that back up here. We kind of look at this, the timing is such that we might have to increase that percentage on Sunday as confidence increases that there's still another batch of moisture that sticks around, because perhaps that low just starts developing pretty close to central Mississippi. That would then transport more moisture farther north and extend the duration of the event potentially. I want Maggie's opinion on that there. She has looked at obviously more models than I have this morning, or that's certainly my assumption.
Yeah, no, I totally.
You go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
I was just saying I
ask,
totally agree, but what was your question?
We did it.
Yep.
Is it possible that we need to take that percentage up on Sunday? No, you're fine. You're fine. 50% is not a bad number, but do we need to? Yeah, we're definitely going to have to consider that.
No, I definitely would. I almost changed it to 60 today, but I try not to go heavy on changes on just morning model runs. But things are definitely taking this over to Sunday. Like I could see impacts lingering into a lot of our Sunday. And then us getting over it and becoming, more dry and sunny on Monday. But model runs, I mean, they're pretty consistent of something on Sunday. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if y'all uptick it tonight. I think I'll take it to a 60 for midday, and it's just looking more and more likely. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're in good shape. So let's also pull up that threat confidence graphic for a moment. And we'll talk about adjustments on that. So we are right now at a level 2 on accumulating snowfall. We'll go down level 1 on that. On the heavy rainfall for some, that probably needs to be, first off, okay, travel impacts for some. I mean, we can solidly say that we're probably not in the scenario where this is all rainfall, right?
Right. Yep.
So high on that. And then sub-freezing 3 days or more on the cold air end of that. For many spots, that's probable. I want to look at, again, the euro is one of the warmer projections. Well, I'm going to go over here. We'll come back to that. Leave that graphic up, and I think I guess we'll refresh it here in a second, and we'll adjust that just so we kind of have the latest on that. Let's look at how long. Again, one of our warmer models gets us below freezing. So back below freezing, this shows most of us by kind of midday Sunday, and then really cold through early Monday, single-digit low temperatures to low teens for a lot of spots, with temperatures, most locations still below freezing all day Monday. Into Tuesday, early Tuesday morning. Notice Tuesday morning is not quite as cold on this series of projections here, and that would be because, again, less snowfall, more ice fall to the north. That gets us back up above freezing for Tuesday. So I could say sub-freezing 3 days or more on that. Confidence has decreased a little bit on that. There will be locations where that is the case. Up there toward Tate County where Maggye is, probably Saturday, some point Saturday, or if not Friday night. And you go through Sunday, go through Monday, you go into possibly Tuesday. I think we can go sub-freezing more than 2 days in some spots, but I think we need to go down to a level 3 on that as well. I think I'll bring Maggye back in on that. That's just kind of looking at, again, the more aggressive warm model, how we think that plays. I think, just off the cuff plays out. I am open to suggestion on that, by the way.
No, I agree. Even looking at Saturday's temperatures, where they could teeter-totter, I already did it, but we can do whatever you want. But putting that down a level does make sense. Now, that's not saying it's going to be really cold multiple days out, but sub-freezing is a different situation. So I agree with that fully. Okay.
So again, ice remains the most likely impact if it's going to be impactful. Heavy rainfall continues to increase for some locations, but that heavy rainfall could also be heavy freezing rainfall where it freezes in contact. And so that's why, again, we have messaging issues here that we're going to try to continue to resolve over the course of the next couple of days. Our live broadcasts every day. Typically a little shorter than this, but 6:37, 7:30 a.m. Our meteorologist Maggye McCauley, 7 days a week this time around. Unfortunately, probably continuing in the next week will probably be Saturday and Sunday morning. Won't be all of those shows, but will be some of those shows, trying to give you updates so that you can plan for what you need to plan for there as we try to get through this winter weather event. 5, 6, and 10 o'clock tonight. I'll be here talking about the impacts with this. Our game of the week is actually going to be ongoing out there in Calhoun County for today. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynor and our Ethan Foster will be live from there at 5 and 6 o'clock. Highlights coming up at 10 o'clock for tonight. But obviously here in the Room to Room Weather Center, the main thing that we are tracking is going to be that chance for this wintry precipitation. Certainly significant concerns there. Before we wrap things up completely, I do want to revisit something that we did talk about a little bit earlier on in this broadcast, and that is the fact that there will be some school closings probably by Monday of next week, and other different types of closings potentially as well. This is from our website, msliveweather.com, and there's a place that you can go on that website there to submit those closures. It is something that we have to approve. It's something that if you email us and say, hey, we're closing, I'll tell you right now, probably not going to get that on. We have a very small staff in comparison to the TV station. So, and even the TV station, this was a nightmare trying to get the closings and everything on. So there is a place on the app. It's been there from the very beginning where you can see closings. There's a submission form on our website, and you can see that link above my head there, which is msliveweather.com/closing/submissions. Here's what this is for, and if I beg you to help me out in this way. We're looking for businesses with more than 40 employees. And that's not to say, again, we are a small business. That's not to say small businesses aren't important, but the best and most effective delivery mechanism is probably a group chat or a chain message for you guys as well. If every small business of 10 employees sends us their submissions, I'm not going to have any time to actually look at the actual forecast. So, if we're talking about Toyota or H.M. Richards or, Steel Dynamics, and many of those people probably aren't going to do anything different. But if they choose to, that affects, thousands of people. They have an internal way to, communicate that naturally, but that affects lots and lots of people. Large employers, yes. When you get to really small employers, we could very easily get buried in submission requests on that. So this will be schools. And again, schools that, opt in, and go in there and submit on that link. We'll have, again, probably a Facebook Live where we specifically discuss that later on today, if for whatever reason that's necessary for tomorrow. But, that's schools and large employers we're kind of asking at this point here. When we get into churches on Sunday, we will, do our best on that as well. But again, small staff by Sunday morning, the only two people working are probably Maggye and I. If it's really, really, really impactful, Gabe might cycle in. We might see something from Caleb, but we don't have a large staff, and the more people that are clicking approve on that, the less people that are paying attention to the forecast. So again, the form is there. We'll figure that out. Maybe this is really, really simple. Just click approve, and it's not a big deal. I just have concerns that with staffing that could be a little bit tricky. Okay, so next live broadcast is going to be at 5, 6, and 10, and I'll hit the thing on Maggye one more time. She does a spectacular job. She's getting ready to make sure our 24-hour channel is updated. We do have a 24/7 channel that cycles in information and weather updates, really everything you need available here on the Mississippi Live Weather app. I do want to thank everybody for liking, for subscribing. For those of you that are trying to find us on the different platforms, if you search Mississippi Live, usually it'll show up on the App Store and all that kind of stuff. You're usually going to look for Mississippi Live Weather for the latest. And I just want to look it up for a second. Type in the word Mississippi Live Weather, it's the first thing that pops up. We were up to about 16 in the App Store yesterday. You have us at on the ranking there, up at number 22 because of how many people have downloaded. Thank you so much for your support, for your help. And again, we will be back here at 5, 6, and 10 for the latest updates. Tune in. We'll keep you ahead of whatever's coming. Thank you so much. We'll see you then.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. We knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lopon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lopon has proven himself trustworthy.